Hello, friends, it's me, Sheriff Labrador, and today we have a special episode for you.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Sheriff Labrador, I'm already excited.
Together with my loyal partner, Sheriff Dobie, we're going to tell you about the most beautiful and challenging mode in Roblox, Escape the Carnival of Horrors OBBY. This mode is simply incredible.
You find yourself in a mysterious and eerie carnival, full of dangers and unexpected twists.
Let's start from the beginning. As soon as you enter the game, you're greeted by a creepy carnival, dimly lit by lanterns. Dangerous traps and evil ghost clowns patrolling the area are scattered everywhere. Your task is to avoid them at all costs.
Exactly. Do you see that red balloon? We need to follow it. In the first stage, you have to be very careful and quick to avoid getting caught by the clowns. I recommend watching your steps closely to avoid traps.
Yes, and that's just the beginning. This clown world is huge, and I think we'll be fighting this clown today. By the way, do you know the name of this clown? Write it in the comments, and whoever guesses correctly will get a heart from us on their comment.
But inside, it's full of dangerous mechanisms. You must be very attentive and keep moving to avoid getting caught in the traps.
We need to get through these rusty pipes. The main thing is not to touch the fire or fall down. We can't forget about the final part, escaping through the horror ride. This is the most challenging part, where you'll have to use all your skills and agility to reach the exit.
Friends, this mode is truly amazing. It's not only difficult, but incredibly beautiful. We are sure you'll love it. Right now, we are in the heart of the Carnival of Horrors, in the clown's house. Just look at this grim place. We need to parkour through old, smelly pipes with a bottomless pit below us.
Yes, it's really scary. The smelly pipes are not only a test of our agility, but also a real endurance test. The smell is disgusting, but we need to focus and move forward.
Watch your step, Sheriff Labrador. If we slip, we'll fall into that bottomless pit. We must be very careful and watch each step. Let's move slowly and confidently.
Good plan, Sheriff Dobie. Do you see that narrow pipe ahead? We need to jump onto it and then move along the wall. The main thing is not to rush and keep our balance.
Great, I'm ready. Let's go, Labrador. You first. I'll cover you. This is probably one of the most difficult stages in this mode, but we'll manage, right?
Of course, Dobie. We're a team. All right, one jump, then another. Carefully, done. Now it's your turn, Dobie.
Got it. I'm coming. One jump, another. Yes, I did it. Now we need to walk along this narrow pipe. It's slippery, so hold on tight.
Of course, Dobie. We're a team. All right, one jump, then another. Carefully, done. Now it's your turn, Dobie.
Yes, it's a real nightmare. These saws spin so fast that one mistake can cost us our lives. We need to move very carefully and precisely calculate our actions.
Look, Dobie. The saws move in a specific pattern. If you watch closely, you can catch the moment when they stop for a split second. That's when we need to dash through.
I made it too. Can you see me? Wow! Look at this beautiful amusement park. Ferris wheel, roller coasters, and much more.
Now we're escaping from the scariest clown in this carnival. He wants to turn us into his dolls, and we urgently need to find a way to escape. Look ahead. There's a Ferris wheel. It's our chance to get to the top.
The clown is still after us. Let's go, Labrador. We can do this.
Yes, we're at the top. What a view! You can see the whole carnival from here. The clown won't catch us here.
Whew, that was intense. But we did it, Labrador. Now we're safe.
Guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us likes. It's the best gift you can give us. Our animal town has always been a peaceful place. But recently we were shaken by a story connected to the amusement park. The park has always been a popular spot for family outings. However, with the arrival of a new clown, strange incidents began happening. He appeared friendly, but there was always something unusual around him. The townspeople began to complain about odd feelings and missing items. Dobie and I decided to get to the bottom of this.
From the very beginning, we noticed that the clown attracted children, but the parents looked at him with concern. We started the investigation trying to understand what was going on. In the park, we discovered strange traces and heard stories about how the clown was leading children in unknown directions. In the evening, the park closed, but some children didn't return home. Labrador and I decided to stay in the park after closing time to see what was happening.
When it got dark, the park turned into a place of shadows and suspicious sounds. We hid behind carousels and rides, observing what was going on. Soon, we saw the clown leading a group of children. They seemed hypnotized, following him without a single word. We cautiously followed them until they reached an old, abandoned tent that hadn't been used in a long time.
The tent was locked, but somehow the clown managed to open it. We carefully approached, trying not to give ourselves away. When we peeked inside, we saw a stage with bright lights. The clown started his performance, but it wasn't an ordinary show. He used strange tricks and magical illusions that seemed to mesmerize the children. We realized that the clown was using some dark magic to control them.
We decided to act quickly. I distracted the clown, pretending I wanted to see the show up close, while Dobby took the children out of the tent. The clown, noticing our presence, became angry. His face twisted into a malicious grimace, and he tried to stop us. But we were already prepared and knew what to do. We used flashlights to blind him and escorted the children to the park's exit.
We led the children to a safe place and called for backup. The clown tried to escape, but he didn't get far. When our colleagues arrived, we arrested him and started the investigation. It turned out that this clown was a former magician who had lost his job and decided to use his skills for sinister purposes. Thanks to our efforts, the park became a safe place for family outings again. Labrador and I returned to the station, knowing that we had done an important job. We told the townspeople this story so they would know that even in the safest place, dangers can be hiding. But together, we can overcome any difficulties and protect our town.
Recently, a new clown appeared in our town. He was so funny that he immediately became popular. Everywhere he went, people laughed until they cried. He performed street shows, visited people's homes, and entertained both children and adults. Everything seemed fine, but something wasn't right. Dobby and I started noticing that after the clown's visits, people's belongings went missing. At first, it was small things, but each day the number of disappearances grew. We decided to take control of the situation and figure out what was happening.
We began to keep an eye on this clown, but he was so sneaky that none of our observers could catch him in the act. He would go into homes, show his tricks, and everyone seemed to forget what had happened. But as soon as the clown left, valuable items were always missing, from watches to jewelry. Sheriff Labrador suggested we find out what was going on, and soon we were in the middle of an investigation. We decided to set up a trap.
One night, Dobby and I decided to keep an eye on the clown in person. We put on masks and went into one of the houses where the clown frequently showed up. When he arrived, we began to watch his actions closely. At first, everything went as usual. He entertained everyone with his jokes and tricks. But suddenly, during one of his tricks, we noticed his hand quickly slip behind his back and disappear into the host's pocket.
That was the moment of truth. Labrador and I realized that this wasn't just a coincidence. We started watching his hands, and soon we discovered that he was really stealing things while everyone was laughing or distracted by his show. He skillfully used his tricks to secretly take small valuables. We decided to catch him red-handed.
When the clown left, we immediately went to the house to check what had gone missing. And, as strange as it seemed, valuable items had indeed disappeared. We gathered our strength and decided to act. The next day, we met with the clown again, but this time, he didn't know we were preparing to expose him. When he started his new trick, we quietly surrounded him.
The clown tried to avoid us, but we already knew everything. He realized his trick had been uncovered and tried to escape. But Labrador was faster. We caught him, and it turned out that this clown was a master of pickpocketing, using his popularity to steal from trusting townspeople. After we arrested him, it was revealed that he was a thief, hiding behind the mask of a cheerful clown. But now, thanks to us, he would no longer be able to cause trouble in our town.
That's how we exposed this funny clown. He thought he could trick us, but it didn't work out that way. This time, the jokes were over, and now all the town's residents know that we don't joke with anyone who tries to deceive them. Dobby and I are back to patrolling, knowing that even the most amusing incidents can hide dangerous secrets.
When we returned to the station, we told the townspeople how important it is to stay vigilant, even when it seems like everything around is 100% safe. The clown thought his tricks would go on forever, but it turned out differently. Labrador and I are proud that we acted in time, and now the townspeople can laugh again without fear.
Officer Dobby and I are on the roller coaster, and right before us stands a massive carnival city. We're not just here for fun. We're keeping everything under control. But right in front of us, there's that terrifying clown.
Well, friends, the time has come to say goodbye. We hope you enjoyed riding with us on these roller coasters, following our adventures, and of course, staying alert. Until next time, and may your carnivals always be filled with joy, not threats.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to keep an eye on your surroundings, because even in the brightest places, mysteries can be hiding. Hi, friends. As you can see, we're at school, which means today we have to escape from Mr. Stinky.
Hello, everyone. But first, we need to get out of the classroom. Crazy Mr. Stinky put our picture on the board and wrote that we're newbies. We need to prove him wrong.
Of course we will. We are real sheriffs. Let's activate the fire alarm and escape before anyone notices.
Sheriff Labrador, difficult trials await us ahead. We need to save our strength for the final boss battle.
Oh, it seems he was nearby all this time. Stealth is not an option. Let's run!
He's looking at us with such a scary smile, he's about to catch up. We need to speed up.
What a huge belly he has. Is he really asleep? Maybe he just wants to scare us or play. Perhaps he's curious about how we'll handle his trials.
Haha, why did he fall asleep? Well, better not to risk it.
Someone tried to escape and stepped into this strange green liquid. I hope it's not acid. Let's climb into the vent. Hold your breath so you don't choke on the dust.
Now we'll jump through the parkour. You're a pro at this, so I'm sure we'll pass without mistakes. Looks like he's awake. Hope he doesn't attack now.
Look how creepy this looks. Why did he drill a hole in the wall to spy on us instead of installing a camera?
Brr, very creepy. Maybe he thinks this will scare us and we won't be able to continue.
Such things don't scare us. We face scarier things. We need to ignore him and focus on the goal. How do we open the gates?
Maybe these two buttons will open them. The question is, do we need to press them simultaneously or separately?
It will be unfair if the door only opens together. We'll find out soon when we press the second button.
How much money and time was spent on creating all these trials? He's really crazy. Why does he need all this? To watch kids cry?
Great. The door opened. I think he spent about $1 million in 10 years on all this. But we haven't seen the other trials yet, and they are probably more difficult. Oh, this trial looks familiar. Maybe he wants to learn our weaknesses for the final battle.
Now we need to focus on not getting hit by the laser. I don't understand how lasers can disintegrate things. I've only seen those used to play with cats.
There are powerful lasers used in material processing. Their power allows cutting through various objects.
Got it, thanks. Look, this guy is offering to take a secret path. Should we trust him?
If it's a trap, they'll just kill us and we'll respawn. Plus, I'm curious to see what's there.
It's a giant hanging platform. Maybe there will be a boss battle. Why did this guy say it's a secret path?
All we can do is press the red button. Okay, the button summoned the boss. He looks like Mr. Stinky, but with pipe legs and a large gear. Maybe Mr. Stinky likes steampunk and made a robotic copy of himself.
Considering the technology, it's possible. But Mr. Stinky is too old to master such technology. Although, given his madness, anything can be expected from him.
He has almost no health left. The main thing is not to get too close so he doesn't hit us with his hat.
Oh, that was exhausting. He's too strong or we have two weak weapons.
All right, what's next? We defeated him and we got nothing. What nonsense. Maybe they'll at least leave us the weapons. Oh, I accidentally jumped. No big deal, we'll respawn. This guy just tricked us. He probably wanted to laugh, but something went wrong. Did you notice that these books have spikes? It's dangerous.
And those spiked balls, they look like viruses. I hope we didn't get sick.
We almost ran into a spiked mace. Oh no, it's yellow-toothed Larissa. Grab your weapon and shoot her in the eye. She looks like Mrs. Stinky because she has terrible breath.
I hope she at least takes a shower. She has horrible makeup and a wart on her face. Now it's clear. Mr. and Mrs. Stinky are dating. Interesting.
Hooray! The second boss is defeated. Dobby and I were patrolling the town when we received a distress call. Professor Tailstein, a well-known scientist and inventor, had created cyborgs meant to assist the townsfolk in their daily tasks. But it soon became clear that something had gone wrong. Instead of helping, the cyborgs began to act aggressively. Dobby and I realized we couldn't ignore this. Tailstein always had strange ideas, but we never expected something like this.
Yeah, at first everything seemed like just another normal project. The cyborgs were helping with cleaning, delivering goods, ensuring safety. But soon reports came in that the robots were breaking equipment, scaring people, and in some areas, even attacking residents. Sheriff and I immediately realized something wasn't right. These machines were too smart for simple tasks, and it seemed like they were starting to plan something. We went to the professor to figure out what had happened.
When we arrived at the professor's place, he was in a panic. He claimed that his program was supposed to work as intended, and that the robots couldn't have gone out of control. He said he didn't understand how it happened, but his invention was clearly no ordinary one. We inspected the lab and quickly realized that something wasn't right. We started suspecting that someone might have interfered with the system and introduced a virus that altered the behavior of these robots. Time was running out and we needed to act fast.
The professor told us that the central control module, which controlled all the cyborgs, was located in an underground lab. It was a secured area, and getting in wouldn't be easy. But Sheriff and I knew that without accessing it, we wouldn't be able to stop the cyborgs. We began planning how to break into the lab, knowing that many dangers awaited us along the way. If we didn't succeed, the town would be destroyed.
We entered the lab and immediately faced our first obstacle. A few cyborgs were patrolling the corridors. We tried to move quietly, but one of the robots spotted us and activated the alarm. More cyborgs appeared right away and started moving toward us. We had to act fast. Dobby and I fought back in sync, but every step was getting harder. The cyborgs weren't backing down.
As soon as we passed the first corridor, we realized our task was only getting more difficult. New patrols were waiting for us at every corner, and if we weren't careful, we'd be spotted. I suggested using some devices to temporarily disable their sensors. We managed to pull it off, but time was running out, and we knew that every second counted. We kept moving toward the main hall, where the module we needed to disable was located.
When we reached the central hall, we were met with a real cyber barrier. Several cyborgs surrounded the control module, guarding it. It was a full-on battle, but we knew we couldn't lose. We attacked from different sides, but one of the robots triggered the defense system. At that moment, we had to act quickly. While they blocked the entrance, I searched for a way to disable all their signals. In our town of animals, there's nothing scarier than a school night. It all began when we received a strange call. In the school where the youngest residents study, all the lights went out. At first, it seemed like a simple power outage, but as soon as Dobby and I arrived, we knew something was wrong. The darkness in the corridors was so thick that we could barely make out the path. There were no students to be found, but strange sounds echoed as if someone was wandering the dark halls.
Sheriff and I decided to investigate the school. As we walked through the first floors, we noticed strange marks on the walls, as if someone had been hiding or running in a hurry. We made our way to the old basement, a place no one usually ventured into. The school was quite old, and the basement had always been surrounded by rumors. They said that many years ago, mysterious experiments were conducted down there. At that moment, Sheriff and I began to feel an unsettling sense of anxiety building up. We moved forward, trying to locate the source of the strange sounds.
When we descended into the basement, the air was heavy, and the darkness felt almost alive. We discovered an old, dusty mirror that had once stood in one of the classrooms. It was covered in grime, but when we cleaned it, something strange reflected back at us. It wasn't our reflections, but silhouettes that resembled students, with empty eyes. We quickly backed away from the mirror, and at that moment, we heard the basement doors creak open. We turned around and saw a shadow begin to move down the corridor.
We rushed toward the exit, but the doors were locked. It was at that moment that we realized this wasn't just a security system malfunction. The shadows were moving faster, and there were more of them. We tried to find another way out, but every corridor led us back to the basement. Suddenly, one of the shadows began speaking in our voices. That's when we understood. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone or something had brought this place to life.
Dobby and I desperately tried to escape, but the more we moved, the more creaking footsteps we heard behind us. We decided to use some old school equipment to disable the electrical systems. As soon as we did, the shadows started to disappear, and silence returned. Once we were outside, we realized this wasn't just a malfunction. We had saved the town, but the dark forces in the school were still lingering.
When we told the townspeople the story, many started looking at the school with suspicion. But despite everything, the shadows had vanished, and in that moment, we understood sometimes even the darkest corner can be a hidden test for those who are brave enough to face what they don't understand. Sheriff and I returned to work, but that evening, when night fell, neither of us could bring ourselves to go back. We knew this school wasn't just a building, it was a place where dark secrets hide.
Well, friends, we did it! We conquered that evil teacher! I, Labrador, want to thank you for joining us on this adventure. Remember, with us, you can chase down any problem and beat it.
See you, friends. We're always on guard. Hi, friends. Today we're going to try to escape from an evil dog in Roblox. It's right behind us, but it seems to be sleeping. So for now, we're safe.
Hi, everyone. Not only do we have challenges ahead, but also boss battles. By the way, if you know the name of this dog, let us know in the comments.
Sheriff Labrador, what if we jump on her belly?
Let's do it, but be ready in case she wakes up. Don't worry.
I think she's stuffed and watched TV all night.
Yeah, looks like we need to crawl through the vents. But there's parkour ahead. Good thing I did that back in school.
Oh no, you accidentally broke her mom's vase. Looks like she's sleeping soundly. Hope she won't notice when she wakes up.
Let's quickly pass through and slip away. Oh, here's a huge room. See those metal platforms? We need to press a button.
I wonder why this dog created all these challenges. I don't think she could handle them herself, although they could be useful for maintaining health.
Wow, it's a rope bridge. I used to ride one of those when I was a kid. Maybe she built all these obstacles so no one could disturb her sleep. But here we are, trying to escape from her. Strange that she kidnapped us. Look, she has a family. Why can't we see them? And who's the guy in the picture on the left? Looks like Tom's friend.
I have a theory. We've entered a world of talking animals. Maybe this is hell because no one wants to be forced to talk, especially about things they don't want to.
Probably. She built all these trials to avoid the fate of endless conversations. Now we need to find the others and figure out why we were kidnapped.
Maybe they kidnapped us so we'd replace them in conversations and they could be free? Or maybe they feed on other animals and that gives them the ability to talk? Or maybe they're just a little crazy. We need to focus on getting out of here and figuring out what's going on.
We need to crawl through the vents. It's the way to the next location. Hopefully we'll meet some new characters.
Look, it's Talking Tom!
Oh, he fell!
Get ready to run.
I don't think he has good intentions. Have you ever seen Tom with red eyes? He looks like he's ready to crush us like pancakes. Looks like he's about to start shooting lasers.
What if he can do more than just talk? We'll need superpowers to apprehend the suspects.
Why is he hiding around the corner? Did he think we couldn't see him?
Maybe he's a little dumb or just sleepy and disoriented.
He has funny little teeth like a baby. You know, he even seems a little cute to me.
Oh, looks like you like all of this. Hope you don't start turning into one of them. Are you in a trance or something?
I don't know. Hope I'm not getting absorbed by this atmosphere. If something happens, let me know.
Of course, let's go through the vent. We've already dealt with Tom. Let's see who's ahead. Looks like a kid's room.
Maybe it's Ben's room?
You're right, it's a girl. I wonder what her name is and if she's facing the same problem as Ben.
While you were talking, we're already in her paws. Why did we get teleported back? I don't think she's as evil as Tom.
I think so too. If she wanted to bite us, she would have gotten out through the bars. There are huge gaps in them.
Oh, her name is Lily. Strange that there's no room for her brother. Why are they separated like that? Let us know in the comments if you have a brother or sister and live in the same room.
What if something happened to her brother? Maybe that's why everyone went crazy and thinks we killed him.
Dobby, you're daydreaming again. It's distracting us from our main goal. I don't think it's as scary as you think.
We're in the central ventilation system that provides oxygen to the entire complex. I wonder what we can leave as a souvenir here.
It was an ordinary night when Dobby and I were patrolling the city of animals. Nothing unusual until a strange light appeared in the sky. It was pulsing, changing colors, and moving like it was alive. I immediately realized it wasn't a meteor or a regular drone. We decided to approach it. When we got to the deserted park, the light grew brighter and descended right in front of us. We stopped, turned on the sirens, and began observing. And then, from that light, dogs began to emerge.
I thought it was some kind of illusion, but no, these dogs look nothing like us. They were large, with bright, almost glowing eyes. Some of them wore metal collars, which were clearly more than just decorations. I felt something stir inside me. It was like encountering something completely different. They approached us confidently, as if they knew exactly what they were doing.
They didn't look like ordinary dogs. Their behavior was calm, but determined, and their eyes held such confidence that it was immediately clear. They weren't random visitors. One of the dogs, who seemed to be the leader, stepped forward and stood on its hind legs. It looked at us, and we realized that it wasn't just trying to scare us, it was trying to communicate. It began explaining that they came from another world, where everything is the opposite. There, dogs are the rulers, and humans are the pets.
I couldn't believe my ears. It felt like something out of a science fiction movie. These dogs claimed that their civilization was much older and more advanced than ours. They traveled between worlds, and now that they had found ours, they wanted to propose an exchange. We, the dogs, should become pets in their world, and they would become the masters in ours. And to do this, they were willing to use their technology to move us there.
I was stunned. We, the dogs, would become pets, and these creatures, strange as it sounded, would take our place. But their confidence in this proposal was so strong that there was no point in doubting. They said their world was one of harmony and order, where dogs rule and humans serve as pets. I felt that this wasn't just a random appearance of aliens. It was a proposal that could change everything.
I kept trying to wrap my head around what they were offering us. Exchange. It wasn't just a word. It meant that our world would change forever. We could try living on the other side, in their world, where dogs were rulers and humans were our pets. We could experience a life we'd never known and see how everything worked there. But I also realized that if we agreed, we would never return.
We were faced with this choice: exchange worlds, become pets in another world, or stay in ours. But knowing that would mark the end of ordinary life. I didn't know what to do, but in their eyes, I saw sincerity. This was more than just an offer. It was an opportunity. We could change not just our lives, but also understand what it meant to be part of another reality.
When they offered to use their technology to travel between worlds, I felt my heart race. It seemed unbelievable, but the thought that we could become part of their world was inevitable. Dogs ruling humans. Life in another world. I didn't know what awaited us, but I was sure of one thing. From this moment on, everything would change.
The day Dobby and I received the call, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. We were patrolling the streets of Animal Town, as usual, when our radar beeped. It was an emergency call, and when we heard what was happening, I felt my heart race. Something terrible was approaching. An evil scientist, known for his bizarre inventions, was threatening to launch a machine that could turn rain into a shower of sweet candy. It seemed harmless. What could be wrong with candy rain? But we knew the consequences could be catastrophic.
As soon as we heard about the scientist's plan, we knew exactly what was at stake. Candy rain wasn't just a fun prank. Sheriff and I knew that too much sugar was a serious threat. If this rain actually fell, all the kids would get toothaches. But it wasn't just that. We all know how hard it is to control the urge to eat a candy. What if there were too many of them? It could lead to severe dental issues and even health problems. We had to act fast.
We sped through the city, and with each passing kilometer, the sense of urgency grew. The scientist, as always, couldn't just leave people alone. He was insanely confident in his plan and didn't think about the consequences. In his lab, a massive machine was already prepared to launch the candy rain.
When we got to the location, everything was ready. The scientist was standing by his machine, surrounded by a tangle of wires and mechanisms that clearly didn't look safe. We immediately realized that time was running out. The machine had already started launching the first candies into the air. They were falling with great speed, like rain, but instead of water, it was caramel, chocolate.
Well, here we are. Behind this door, we've got the map's final boss waiting for us, and it looks like we were wrong. This isn't just any boss. It's a giant robot named Ben. Let's try shooting him right in the teeth. I'm aiming for his legs. Maybe that's his weak spot and he'll fall.
Wow! Ben turned out to be a real coward. Instead of fighting, he just built a giant robot.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he were sitting in a chair right now, sipping coffee and watching a movie. I hope it's not alcohol, though.
And he's probably watching football while we're attacking him. This is so unfair. When we got to the location, everything was ready. The scientist was standing by his machine, surrounded by a tangle of wires and mechanisms that clearly didn't look safe. We immediately realized that time was running out. The machine had already started launching the first candies into the air. They were falling with great speed, like rain, but instead of water, it was caramel, chocolate, and lollipops. I quickly assessed the situation. If we didn't intervene, tomorrow all the kids would be in trouble. As soon as we turned off the machine, the sweet rain stopped.
Wow, we won! Don't forget to congratulate us in the comments, but it's time to leave this crazy world of talking animals.
Well, I guess it's time to say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed our escape from the talking animals.
Yeah, don't forget to leave comments, like, and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. Also, check out our other videos and let us know what you'd like to see next. Time to move on. Let's go to new adventures. Wait, what's going on over there? I hope that's not a giant ginger robot. Or Angela. Bye. Save us. Guys, watch this video until the end. Like it, and leave a comment, and you'll save us. Hello, friends. Today, Dobby and I have found ourselves in a real predicament. We've been trapped by the evil Karen, who believes she's the only beautiful person on Earth. Her house is a fortress filled with traps and secrets. We have to work together to escape. Karen is so wealthy that her house is packed with all sorts of gadgets she uses to keep us captive.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Labrador is right. Karen is a real villain. Her beauty is deceptive. Behind it lies a cold heart. She trapped us and wants to keep us here forever to be the only beauty around. Her house is indeed luxurious, but the atmosphere is sinister. You can feel her presence in every corner. Everything around reminds us of her vanity and pursuit of perfection.
Every room in her house is a separate challenge. We have to work together to activate hidden mechanisms and platforms that allow us to move forward. Teamwork is essential here. I press a button and a path opens up for Dobby. Then he does the same for me. Step by step, we advance despite all the obstacles Karen throws at us.
This really requires complete synchronization and trust in each other. Only then can we overcome these challenges. In some places, the house feels like a maze where it's easy to get lost. But we won't give up because our goal is to escape and stop Karen. Her control over this place makes her even more dangerous. But I believe we can handle it together.
Moreover, Karen's house is filled with mirrors and reflections. She obviously adores her reflection and thinks it gives her more power. But we must not succumb to her influence. Instead, we use it as a clue to find hidden exits or keys. Every action she takes against us becomes a new opportunity for us to find a way out.
The rooms where she keeps her treasures and jewelry are particularly interesting. These halls look dazzling, but they hide the most dangerous traps. Karen doesn't want anyone to steal her jewels, so she has done everything to guard them. However, in these halls, we can also find important items that will help us escape. We need to be extremely careful and attentive.
We understand that at the end of this journey, we will face a final showdown with Karen herself. She will probably defend her kingdom to the last, but we have no choice but to fight. We know that defeating her is the only way to regain our freedom. Karen may be strong and cunning, but our friendship and unity give us the strength to move forward.
We hope for your support, friends. With each step, we get closer to freedom and victory over Karen. This path is not easy, but we believe we can overcome all the obstacles. Your faith in us helps us keep going. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Recently, something completely unusual happened in our town. I guess I should start from the very beginning. One morning, Madame Karen, the most beautiful lady I had ever seen, came to visit us. She appeared in the square, and her dazzling beauty mesmerized everyone around. It seemed like no one could resist her charms. Soon, we noticed that people started acting strangely. They began bringing her jewels and the most delicious candies, as if they were under some kind of hypnosis.
It was truly incredible. Every day, we saw the townspeople lining up to give Madame Karen their most valuable possessions. Labrador and I immediately realized that something wasn't right. Madame Karen didn't just appear in our town for no reason. She was clearly using her beauty to manipulate the townspeople.
We began an investigation. At first, everything seemed too tangled. No one could explain why they were so eager to please Madame Karen. Professor Owl, our old friend and sage, advised us to pay attention to the behavior of the townspeople. She suggested that Madame Karen might have been using some sort of method to control them. We decided to keep a closer watch on her.
One night, we decided to follow Madame Karen. She lived in a large mansion on the outskirts of town. We sneaked inside and discovered that there was a huge mirror ball in her room. It was a device that emitted hypnotic waves, controlling the will of anyone who came under its influence. We realized that we needed to turn it off immediately.
We came up with a plan. I took on the task of distracting Madame Karen while Dobby disabled the device. At the moment she started suspecting something was wrong, I engaged her in conversation. It was difficult because her beauty could really drive anyone mad, but I knew I couldn't give in to her charms.
Meanwhile, I made my way to the mirror ball. Turning it off wasn't easy. It was protected by a complex system, but thanks to our skills and experience in situations like this, I found a weak spot. I quickly dismantled the mechanism and shut off the hypnotic waves. As soon as the ball stopped emitting waves, all the townspeople under Madame Karen's influence started coming to their senses.
Madame Karen lost her power. Without the hypnotic device, her charms no longer worked. The townspeople began to realize what had happened, and they were filled with gratitude for our intervention. We arrested Madame Karen and handed her over to justice. She could no longer harm anyone in our town.
This story taught us a lot. External beauty doesn't always reflect true intentions. It's important to always stay alert and not be swayed by first impressions. Labrador and I did everything we could to protect our town and its people, and in the end, justice prevailed. Now, our town is peaceful and calm again. Everyone has returned to their usual routines, and there is no longer any fear of someone manipulating us.
Ah, dear subscribers, something unexpected and, frankly, quite strange happened in our town. Let me start from the beginning. One fine day, we noticed that all the most beautiful boys and girls started gathering together. At first, it was just small groups, but then the situation started spiraling out of control. These young residents of the town, all possessing incredible beauty, suddenly began to unite. It was like magic. The more they came together, the stronger and more attractive they became. And when their powers reached their peak, from their union emerged none other than the boss of beauty. I can tell you, it was something truly out of the ordinary.
And it really became a problem. The boss of beauty wasn't just beautiful, he was huge, powerful, and as I discovered, not exactly friendly. This giant started destroying everything in his path. He walked through the town, and his shining image literally made everyone fall to their knees. Some people were forced to look at him in admiration. Others tried to find the strength to turn away, but no one could resist his attractiveness.
I can't help but mention that this was truly a nightmare. Everything we knew about dealing with criminals wasn't helping. This wasn't a regular threat. It was a true wonder of nature. The boss of beauty wasn't just destroying buildings. He was destroying the morals of the townspeople, making them forget about the important things in life and focus only on appearances. This was dangerous for everyone because we had no idea how to fight it.
So, we had to act fast. We started gathering information on what could stop this giant of beauty. I suggested using an old trick. Sometimes too much beauty becomes inconvenient. We turned to the wise residents of the town, those who weren't so dependent on appearances. In the end, it turned out that to defeat the boss of beauty, we just needed to make him see the real, unidealized picture of the world. We decided to carry out an operation that would shatter his illusion.
We started by asking some of our friends, who weren't as attractive, but were very smart, to use mirrors and other reflective surfaces. We set a trap so that his reflection would show him something he didn't want to see. Mirrors outside, combined with reflective surfaces inside buildings, began to create optical illusions. We created such a reflection that the boss of beauty himself started doubting his own strength.
And it worked! The boss of beauty began losing his confidence. The mirrors started showing him that his appearance wasn't everything, and that there were other important things in the town. By the time he realized he couldn't control his emotions through his beauty, we took the opportunity to weaken his power. We ripped control of the town from his hands and destroyed the magic of his attractiveness.
And so, thanks to our plan, the boss of beauty stopped destroying the town. We brought him back to reality, where not only external beauty matters, but also inner qualities. This was a lesson not only for him, but also for all the townspeople. Beauty is important, of course, but it doesn't solely define who you are. We saved the town, and people began to appreciate not just appearances, but the things that truly make them strong.
Yes, we won, but I'll tell you one thing. We also need to be careful with beauty. Sometimes it can cloud the mind, but only true values will help us stay on the right path. In the end, what matters is what's inside, and our town is once again as it should be, harmonious and happily balanced.
After we destroyed her mechanisms and broke all the traps, Karen activated her final defense. She transformed into a giant right in front of us. Her entire body became enormous, and her eyes burned with evil. We knew this was our final battle. But how could we defeat such a giant Karen?
We quickly noticed that there were weak spots on her body, glowing brightly. These were clearly her vulnerabilities. But to reach those spots, we needed to distract her. We immediately realized that we had an unconventional weapon. The poop that Karen absolutely hated. It was just like her own gifts to anyone who didn't please her.
Karen started losing her confidence more and more. We saw her strength fading, and with every hit, she grew weaker. Eventually, she collapsed to the ground, unable to stand before us any longer. We defeated her, not with strength, but with persistence and teamwork. Thank you all for watching. We defeated Evil Karen. Save us, friends! Watch the video until the end so we can escape from here. Hello, everyone. So, are you ready to defeat all these running heads? Today, we're going to escape from the running head.
Yes, hey guys, but this won't be easy because there are tough challenges ahead. Please give us a like. It will really help us. And watch until the end so we can defeat everyone.
Exactly, Dobie. But since we're sheriffs, nothing will scare us. Except, well, I'll tell you about that at the end, because everyone has their secrets.
Look, the first running head, but it's very slow, so we can ignore it. Ah, this is easy. But what's ahead of us?
Don't lose vigilance. There might be a lot of traps around.
This maze is simple. There's no ceiling, so we can peek and see where to go.
Great. Behind this barrier, they won't catch us.
I want to see how smart they are.
That was risky, but I love taking risks too. It's part of our job.
Yes, the key is always to plan your actions and have a backup plan for unexpected situations.
Look, they're getting closer. We need to stay alert.
They move strangely and are now stuck together. It looks like they're kissing. Weird.
I can't even imagine how they walk without legs.
Look, a giant head is blocking the way to the finish. We need to find a way to bypass it.
I see. This looks like a focus test. We took these when we became sheriffs.
There are 3 heads in a narrow passage. We'll have to use parkour skills.
Oh no, they're kissing again. Let's turn away so we don't get distracted. Maybe they're doing this on purpose to confuse us.
It looks like that giant head, but fortunately, it's slow and not very smart. We'll easily outsmart it.
Seems like we're close to the end of the first stage. It's just around the corner. Oh, there was a trap here. That's what happens when you lose focus. But since we're not on a mission, it's not scary. Play for fun, guys. You're right. This ladder leads to the portal to the next stage. Let's go.
Looks like we're in some wooden house. There are 2 doors. Let's go left.
He's standing with his back to us, though he doesn't have a back. I think he's facing us.
We need to slip through quickly while he's distracted by the other hole in the wall.
He's standing with his back to us, though he doesn't have a back. I think he's facing us. I don't even know. Oh, I wanted to say that I don't know where to go. Why is he standing? This is unpredictable.
I think this is designed to scare us. Where to go? I'm not sure. Since the monitor can't emit smells, we can't rely on instincts, so we're going blindly. The key is not to turn around so we don't end up back at the start.
Great. We've reached the checkpoint. We're halfway through the maze. Checkpoints aren't placed for no reason. There may be danger ahead.
Oh, let's quickly slip through the gap before that head wakes up. Another checkpoint, great.
This is a new element of the challenge. We need to turn at the right time so the head doesn't catch us in its mouth.
Oh my god, we got distracted and missed the turn. It's okay. We got the point and we'll quickly go back. Remember, Lab, when we used to play horror games as kids?
Of course, those evenings with popcorn and the old computer. We cursed that creepy monastery so many times.
I wonder how that influenced our work now.
I think it taught us not to panic in the dark. Remember when we first faced that case in the abandoned mine?
Yes, all those sounds and rustling. It felt like something out of an old game.
But thanks to our childhood obsession, we stayed calm and figured it out. No mysticism, just work.
And strangely, it still helps us. I'm glad we spent those horror-filled evenings together.
Me too, Dobie. In our world, every day feels like a horror movie, but we're always ready.
We're on stage 3. Let's keep going. Looks like another maze.
I hope it will be more interesting and challenging. The first one was boring.
It was just preparing us. There are many new mobs at this level. They scared me. Terrifying.
An amazing story took place in our animal town, one that began with very strange events. It all started when we noticed a strange glow in the sky. It didn't look like a regular meteor, and we immediately realized that something was happening. Soon, much to our surprise, aliens appeared from this glow. They were quite unusual. Imagine, they looked like running heads from a Roblox game. These creatures wore bright costumes and were full of enthusiasm.
When they landed, they declared that they didn't come to harm our city, but to become our fans. They loved everything related to our adventures, our city, and they even started copying us, recording our actions and movements just in case. We thought it was just a joke, But when they began setting up fan clubs and running ads about us on their planet, we realized something was wrong.
And that's when the most interesting part began. The aliens told us that they weren't just fans, but that they actually wanted to take over our city and turn it into their fan zone. They were ready to build monuments, organize festivals, and take all of us to their planet to make us symbols of their culture. But that wouldn't be very convenient for us, right? We like our city here, and we weren't planning to move to some foreign place that doesn't suit us.
And so, when we realized that the aliens were seriously determined, we decided to take action. You can't just stop them because they weren't just huge fans, they were also very powerful beings. We needed to come up with something special. And then, Labrador and I came up with a brilliant idea. We decided to create our clones and send them to the alien planet. The clones would essentially be our doubles, entertaining the aliens and showing them that our place on Earth is our home, not their planet.
We turned to our best engineers and inventors, and they helped us create unique cloning devices. With this technology, we created several copies of ourselves, identical to us, but of course, without our memories and personal lives. We sent them to the alien planet. The clones began to work for the aliens, entertaining them and showing them how to properly set up a fan club and, most importantly, how to live in peace and harmony.
When the aliens saw these doubles, they were so amazed that they couldn't believe their eyes. Our clones did everything they were asked to do, and even more. Soon, the aliens realized that their love for our city didn't need to be so obsessive. They understood that we love our city and want to stay here with our friends and family.
In the end, the aliens agreed that our city would stay on Earth and they would return to their planet. We offered them to stay as our friends, not fans, but real friends. As a token of gratitude, they gave us some interesting technologies and promised not to interfere in our affairs anymore. They even built a fan zone for themselves, where they could read about our city and follow our adventures without disturbing us.
And so, the animal city was safe again, and the aliens no longer tried to take us over. Everything ended peacefully, and we all returned to our usual activities. We learned that it's important to respect each other's boundaries, even if someone adores you. And the clones who helped us buy time went down in history as our loyal helpers.
We're going to tell you a story that happened in our town. It all started with rumors. Someone had settled in the forest not far from the town, and everything that people brought there was disappearing. At first, small things, then bigger items. The townspeople started to panic, but Dobie and I decided that it was probably just a rumor. After all, there's always an explanation for everything.
But when Mr. Bobby's toys disappeared, we realized we needed to act. I wasn't too scared, but something wasn't right. Labrador and I decided to check the forest, even though we didn't believe in the supernatural. As soon as we approached the forest, I felt that something strange was going on. It was eerily quiet, and suddenly I heard a strange sound, like something moving on the ground. And then, from the shadows, a strange figure emerged.
I was ready for anything, but this was something I wasn't expecting. The shadow was tall with long arms, and its eyes glowed like two fires in the night. Dobie and I froze, and it was clear that this wasn't an ordinary creature. We started moving forward, but everything around us seemed wrong. The forest became unnaturally silent, and there were no rustling leaves, no sounds from the animals. We soon reached the center of the forest, where there was a strange tree, and that's where everything had been happening.
Under the tree, we found a strange hole. Inside was an old book. Everything around was covered in dust, and the pages of the book were charred. We realized that this wasn't just any book, but an ancient artifact linked to dark forces. Inside were descriptions of rituals that allowed the opening of gateways between worlds. And that's when we understood that something dark was beginning to seep into our world.
Suddenly, we heard that same rustling sound again. Something was moving in our direction. It was the same shadow. We couldn't wait any longer. Grabbing the book, we began to read aloud, trying to find a way to stop it. At that moment, the shadow started approaching at incredible speed, but there was no turning back. We began to chant the incantation, and right before us, the light started to dim, and then the shadow disappeared.
The darkness that had enveloped the forest began to dissipate. When we returned to the town, the townspeople were in shock over what had happened, but we calmed them down. The forest was quiet again, but we knew we had to stay prepared. We don't fully understand what we encountered, but one thing was clear. The danger was real.
Well, friends, our battle with that huge running head is over. But that's not all. Soon we'll tackle the next parts. This was a real challenge, and I'm sure we were lucky to find the exit in time. Just look at this massive chaos it left behind.
Yes, Labrador, it was a real nightmare. The entire map was full of traps, and we barely managed to escape from it. But in the end, we showed that we're not afraid of such challenges. Even though the head was constantly chasing us, we found the strength and bravely overcame all the obstacles.
Hello, friends, it's me, Sheriff Labrador, and today we're taking on a series of challenges together with my friend Dobie.
Hey everyone! Yeah, just like Labrador said, we're playing a challenge map in Roblox. The mode is called Escape from the Dungeon.
Our first challenge is parkour on barrels over a huge lava pit. Dobie, are you ready?
Yes, Labrador, I'm ready. Phew, we made it through this challenge. Now we move on to the next one. We have to jump across wooden planks, but the most important thing is not to fall.
Dobie, how do you like this mode? I really enjoy it. The harder the challenges, the more I start loving this game.
I agree, Labrador. This map is amazing. Very well designed and detailed.
Let's move on to the next challenge. We have to run under giant spikes in time. If we don't make it, we lose.
Labrador, this is terrifying. One wrong step and it's game over.
Don't worry, Dobie. We'll get through it for sure.
We did it, Labrador, but we can't relax. There are even harder challenges ahead.
Now we're climbing up a ladder and entering a strange room filled with chests. We need to open them all and find the key to the door.
Oh, Labrador! We have to find the key to escape from this scary room.
I've opened so many chests, but still no key. Dobie, how about you?
Labrador, come here. I found the key.
Hooray, we're out!
On the next level, there are invisible traps under our feet. Labrador, we have to get through this level on our first try.
We're slowly making our way through, carefully jumping over the invisible traps.
Yes, we cleared this level on the first try. Teamwork makes anything possible.
Now we have to climb down giant wooden beams, but we can't fall. There's poisonous water below, and if we fall, we lose.
I agree, Labrador. We can't afford to lose now.
Dobie, we're so close to beating this level.
Yes, Labrador. We're almost there, and we did it. We're moving on to the next challenge. Let's grab the checkpoint. Up next is parkour on rocks, but if we fall, we'll get crushed and lose.
Oh no, Dobie, we fell. Is this the end?
Don't worry, Labrador. That's why we took the checkpoint. We have another chance.
Yes, we did it, and we're moving forward.
We finished the parkour, and a boulder pushed us straight into the next challenge.
Now we have to jump from rock to rock at super speed. Below us is a huge sea of acid. If we fall, we lose.
Phew, Labrador, we made it through this level.
The day started as usual, with a strong cup of coffee and another morning briefing. I was going through reports when my radio suddenly blared with an urgent alarm. The dispatcher's voice was shaking. Something unimaginable had happened at the Rainbow Meadow Kindergarten. Eyewitnesses reported that a giant dragon had suddenly appeared in the center of the building and was now holding it under siege. Inside were teachers and children. Dobie had just entered the station holding a box of donuts in his paws, but as soon as he heard the call, he set it aside immediately. This was an emergency.
When we arrived at the scene, we were met with a sight straight out of a fantasy movie. The dragon, massive, covered in green scales with enormous wings and eyes that burned like embers, was perched on the roof of the building. Its tail slowly moved, breaking apart the wooden fence of the playground, while its clawed paws gripped the chimney. Panic-stricken adults ran in all directions. Fire had already spread to the top floor, and we knew there was no time to waste.
The first thing we needed to do was find out if there were any injured people inside. As we approached, one of the teachers informed us that all the children had barricaded themselves in the playroom on the second floor. They were scared, but safe for the moment. The only problem was that they couldn't get out. The main entrance was blocked by debris, and fire had cut off the emergency exit. The dragon watched our every move, and clearly wasn't going to let us pass easily.
We decided to split up. Labrador would distract the monster while I tried to get inside through a window. The dragon tilted its head as Labrador pulled out a megaphone and turned the siren to maximum volume. The loud noise made the creature flinch. It turned toward him and let out a deep, rumbling growl. At that moment, I ran to the window, pulled out a crowbar, and struck the glass with all my might.
The dragon saw me as a threat and suddenly spread its wings. I barely had time to jump back as it dove from the roof straight at me. The ground shook from the impact, and I rolled to the side. Meanwhile, Dobie was already climbing inside. I had to hold the monster's attention. If it brought the building down, it would be a disaster. I spotted a fire hydrant nearby and rushed toward it without hesitation. I needed to open it and try to spray the dragon with water.
Inside the building, it was unbearably hot. The walls were cracking, and the air was filled with the smell of smoke. The children huddled in a corner, trembling with fear. I promised them I'd get them out and told them to hold hands. We started making our way to the exit, but suddenly there was a loud creak. The ceiling beam collapsed, blocking our path. We needed to find another way out.
I struck the hydrant several times with my baton, and a powerful stream of water burst out. The dragon roared as the water hit its face. It recoiled, shaking its head, giving me a chance to regroup. I quickly scanned my surroundings, searching for a way to finally subdue it. Then an idea struck me. I could use the nearby construction cranes to trap the monster.
We found a passage leading to an old storage room. There was a back door, but it was jammed shut. The children huddled together in fear as I tried to break it open with my shoulder. The smoke was getting thicker, the air hotter. We were running out of time. I grabbed a metal pipe and used it as a lever. The door finally gave way and we rushed outside.
The dragon was taking to the air. This was our last chance. I sprinted toward the construction crane, jumped into the cabin and yanked the controls. A massive net filled with steel beams swayed in the air. The dragon soared upward, but I had timed it perfectly. I released the load right on top of it. The beams struck its wings, sending it crashing back to the ground. The beast roared, tangled in the net.
I saw the children running into the arms of their relieved parents, but the dragon was still dangerous. It thrashed, roared, and struggled against the net. At that moment, specialists from the Magical Creature Protection Agency arrived. They used special tranquilizer darts, and within minutes, the monster finally calmed down.
We stood there, catching our breath, watching as the specialists loaded the dragon onto a transport platform to take it to a sanctuary. The children were safe. The firefighters had put out the flames, and the teachers couldn't stop thanking us. Dobie and I exchanged a glance. Another case closed.
As everything settled down, I looked up at the sky where the dragon had once soared. This was one of the toughest challenges we had ever faced, but the most important thing was that no one got hurt. We had done our job. And now, I think it's time to head back to the station and finally finish those donuts I left behind before this crazy day began.
The day started as usual. Coffee, reports, and post-inspections. Everything was calm in the city of animals. Dobie and I were about to start our morning patrol when a raccoon named Timmy burst into the station. He looked frightened, his eyes darting around, and he was out of breath. He told us that his friend, the fox Rick, had disappeared. The last time anyone saw him, he was playing a new game, Poppy Playtime 4. Timmy swore he had seen Rick literally vanish into the screen. At first, we thought it was a joke or just childish fears, but then Timmy showed us his tablet. The game's loading screen was still glowing, and there, in the reflection of a store window inside the factory, was a silhouette. It looked just like Rick. I exchanged glances with Dobie. This all seemed impossible, but we couldn't ignore it. If the game was somehow pulling players inside, we needed to figure out why. We sat down in front of the screen. The title flickered, and then the words appeared. "Welcome to the Playtime Toy Factory. Enter your names to join." I typed in my name. Dobie did the same. The moment we pressed enter, the screen flashed, and darkness swallowed us.
When I opened my eyes, dim lighting surrounded us. We stood in a long corridor. Flickering lamps cast strange shadows on the walls. The air was stale, filled with dust and a strangely sweet scent, like old gummy candy. Labrador looked around. A poster on the wall read, "Welcome to Playtime Factory. Keep smiling." Below it stood a broken toy, a giant plush bear with an eerily wide grin. In the distance, we heard children's laughter. It was quiet, but it sent chills down my spine. We moved forward. The factory looked abandoned. Scattered toy parts lay on the floor, and the silence was only interrupted by the occasional creak of metal. Then we heard whispering.
The day started peacefully. Dobie and I were sipping our morning coffee at the station. getting ready for our usual patrol. The streets were quiet. The citizens were going about their daily routines, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But everything changed when the phone rang. On the other end, we heard the trembling voice of a kindergarten teacher from Happy Tales Daycare. She was gasping in terror, almost screaming. The daycare has been taken over. A giant dinosaur broke through the entrance, roaring and not letting the children out. Then, the call was abruptly cut off. Dobie and I exchanged glances. No questions asked. We jumped into our patrol car and sped off toward the daycare at full speed. Friends, quickly hit the like button and watch the video until the end, so that the evil doll lets me go. What? Where are we, Dobie?
I don't know, but it looks like a children's room with toys everywhere.
Wait, this is something strange. It looks like we've ended up in a room full of evil dolls. Hey everyone, today Dobie and I are trying to escape from the house of evil dolls.
Wow, what's ahead of us? Many scary trials and puzzles. Our goal is not just to get out, but to defeat the evilest doll.
Look at this room. It has a strange atmosphere, kind of like childhood memories.
I agree. We've come back to our childhood, but this is definitely not the place we'd want to be.
It seems like we need to go through this narrow passage. It looks like it leads straight to the house. I hope the doll doesn't start hunting us right away.
We found some candy. I wouldn't try it. Who knows? Maybe she poisoned them. We need to collect 10 of these candies.
Looks like we need to jump here. Let's put that off for now and explore the house. Maybe we'll find something useful.
Here's another candy. Yay! A checkpoint. This means if we die, we can come back here. Look at how much she loves her portraits. Seems like you took your words too literally. It wasn't worth dying just to check. I thought you could go through there. There's another hole ahead. Should we go down? It looks like a place straight from hell, but not exactly.
There's a mountain of dishes here.
For me, a mountain of dishes is real hell.
I hate washing dishes. I actually like it. I turn on my favorite music and sing along. It really lifts my mood.
Strange. Looks like no one's cleaned here in years. Maybe she just buys new dishes instead of washing the old ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can't find another explanation for this mess.
It seems like we still have a long way to go. I can't see the end. These arrows seem hypnotic, like they were made to cause hallucinations.
Did you notice? The floor is like lava, but roses are growing in it. Looks like hallucinations.
I see them too. Nice, we've reached another checkpoint. Seems like the end is near. I hope there's no parkour ahead.
I'm a little tired already. These toys, I feel like there's something sinister about them. Maybe the souls of children are trapped inside.
Brr, creepy. By the way, did you know that the toys in the game Poppy Playtime aren't actually bloody, but a mix of red poppy? I've been studying the plot of this game recently. It's pretty interesting.
No, I didn't know that. I'll have to check it out sometime. But look, we've been tricked. This isn't the end. However, I can see a house in the distance. Looks like we need to head there.
Let's hurry! I even see a Ferris wheel. That looks like an interesting place. I wish the amusement park were near the police station. Hey, Labrador, have you ever thought about candy?
Of course, who doesn't love it? Do you have a favorite candy?
I think my favorites are chocolate candies with nuts. What about you?
I prefer caramel candies. They're so tasty, like sweet music in the middle of the workday.
Sometimes caramel is a real lifesaver. But you know what's better than candy? I don't know. Maybe even more candy.
Just look at her. Why is she sitting there, staring at us and not even greeting us?
It seems like she's pretending to be a lifeless doll, but in reality, she's watching us. That's much creepier.
Maybe we need to find a way to open the gate. Here's a button. We need to press 3 of them. It also says we can hide. Clearly, a dangerous trial awaits us.
Let's go. Look, she's coming down on her long braids. How does she even see anything with those eyes?
Oh no, let's hide quickly. We need to observe her from a safe place.
Let's climb higher. Maybe she won't see us.
Did you see her braids flashing past the room? I would hold my breath.
Let's not forget our main task. We still need to press 2 more buttons.
Good thing we looked around. It's always useful to check everything. There are many rooms here where we can hide, so this trial won't be too hard for us, especially with our experience.
I keep hearing her whispering. It's really unsettling.
The City of Beasts has always been a place where the most unusual events happened. But one of the strangest occurrences took place when the candy monster appeared. It all started when a new candy factory opened in our city. All the residents, especially the children, were thrilled. The factory promised the most delicious and unusual candies. But soon, strange things began to happen. The children complained that the candies started behaving strangely. They seemed to come to life and move. Things got even worse when a real monster, made of sweet treats, broke free from the factory.
This candy monster was terrifying. It was huge, with caramel eyes and lollipop teeth. Every time it stepped on the ground, the sound of cracking candy filled the air, and the atmosphere was filled with a sweet but unpleasant odor. It began to destroy everything in its path. Stores, homes, and even roads. Labrador and I had to intervene urgently. We started investigating what exactly caused the appearance of this monster. We found out that all the candies at the factory were made using experimental ingredients that gave them monstrous power, but also caused unusual mutations.
Dobby and I decided to act quickly. There was no time for a long investigation. We needed to stop the monster urgently. Using our skills and new technology, we managed to find its weak spot. Upon arriving at the factory, we discovered that, despite its terrifying appearance, the monster was actually vulnerable. All the candies that made up the monster were controlled by a single mechanism. We realized that if we disrupted this mechanism, the monster would disappear.
We decided to infiltrate the factory where the monster was created. It was dangerous, as each step could lead to further destruction. But Labrador and I acted swiftly and confidently. Soon, we found the most important part of the factory, a secret storage of the ingredients used to create these living candies. We destroyed the special machine that generated them and immediately began to notice the monster losing its strength. It started to shrink and disappear until it turned into a pile of regular candies.
When the candy monster vanished, the city was once again filled with peace and tranquility. The factory was closed, and all its dangerous ingredients were destroyed. Dobby and I returned to the station, reflecting on how unusual events can affect our city. We realized that sometimes even the most harmless things, like candies, can lead to real catastrophes. But thanks to our teamwork and skills, we managed to stop this threat.
After we defeated the candy monster, our city returned to normal life. Labrador and I understood that it's not only important to solve problems, but also to prevent them, so such disasters don't happen again. The city became safe again, and the children could once again enjoy their sweets without fear. But we always remembered this incident because, as strange as it sounds, candies might not be as harmless as they seem.
In our city of beasts, there has always been no shortage of unexpected events, but one day something truly unusual happened. It all began the day the circus came to town. Among the many attractions and shows was a huge toy store. All the little animals eagerly went there to pick out new toys. But by evening, Dobby and I received a strange call. A mysterious virus had infected the toy store, causing all the dolls in the shop to come to life. They began to move and speak, and some of them became aggressive, causing panic among the children and parents.
When we arrived at the scene, the situation was already under control, but the tension in the air was palpable. We saw the dolls in the shop's windows one by one, standing up and crawling out. Some of them looked friendly, but others, not so much. They started marching through the city, scaring the residents. It was clear that this virus, which had infected the toys, was far more serious than we had thought. Instead of delighting children, the dolls had become a threat to the whole community. Labrador and I immediately began our investigation.
It turned out that the virus that turned the toys into living beings was the result of an experiment by a scientist who once worked with circus dolls, trying to create robots that could mimic living creatures. He had accidentally created something that developed self-awareness. These dolls were no longer just toys. They began to think and make decisions. Some of them didn't like being mere toys for children, and they decided they needed more freedom.
Realizing that we were up against not just ordinary toys, but sentient beings, Labrador and I decided to proceed with caution. We started tracking the dolls' every movement, but they were too fast and agile. We needed to find a way to stop the virus that had brought them to life, or else they could take over the entire city. We set up special equipment to investigate how the virus worked, and soon discovered its source, a strange control panel hidden at the center of the toy store.
We quickly infiltrated the store, and with the help of special devices, we disabled the control panel. But, unfortunately, the virus had already spread so much that even without a control source, the dolls kept moving. However, when we activated the program to neutralize the virus, the dolls began to slow down and eventually stopped altogether. It felt like a miracle, but we knew that it wasn't just about defeating these animated toys. We also needed to figure out how to prevent similar incidents in the future.
Once all the dolls had returned to being just toys, Labrador and I went back to the station to assess the damage and analyze how we could prevent such situations. We realized that even the most harmless things, like dolls, can lead to big problems if they're not properly controlled. But the most important thing was that we had prevented a disaster and restored safety to the city.
That's it, friends. We finally defeated the evil doll queen. This battle was a real challenge. See you soon, friends. Friends, watch this video till the end or else she will eat us. Oh no! Hello, friends. Today we have a new exciting adventure. Dobby and I found ourselves in the game Roblox in the Escape the Girls Prison mode. But don't be fooled by the name. This place is not as cute as it sounds. The prison is scary, full of traps and challenges, and we were put in its most dangerous part.
Hi, everyone. Yes, the prison here is far from girly. We quickly realized that this was going to be a tough challenge. Everyone knows we always get out of the most difficult situations, and that's why we were sent here. But even under such conditions, we found a way to start our escape. In the cake that was sent to us, there was a shovel. We used it to dig through the floor, and that's when all the trials and parkour started.
Yes, Dobby. It was unexpected to find a shovel in the cake, but that didn't stop us. As soon as we got out of the cell, we found ourselves in a network of corridors and rooms full of traps. Everything around looked intimidating. Gloomy walls, dark corners, and the constant feeling that we were being watched.
Exactly, Labrador. The entire interior of this prison leaves no doubt. They want to keep us here at any cost. We've seen a lot of scary places, but this is probably one of the creepiest. We went through several narrow tunnels and dark corridors, but we never doubted our success. We're already used to such trials.
As we progressed, we had to face various obstacles, but each time we found a way to overcome them. It was important to stay calm and keep our wits about us. We trusted each other and knew that together we could handle any difficulties.
Our determination and faith in each other are what keep us moving forward. We've proven time and time again that we can get out of any situation. This time will be no exception. In the prison, we faced not only physical but also psychological challenges. The constant pressure and fear were our companions, but we didn't give up.
With each step, we got closer to freedom. Going through all these trials, we learned to understand each other better and work as a team. It was a real test of our friendship and cooperation.
That's right, Labrador. Now we know that we can handle any difficulty if we stick together. We'll have to fight all the prison guards. If anyone thinks girls are weak, watch this video and you'll never think that again.
As you already know, this prison was specifically designed for girls. It was built to contain those who, in the eyes of its creators, pose a particular danger due to their skills or abilities. Despite its name, the girls' prison has become a place for those who have repeatedly proven their ability to escape from any traps and find a way out of the most difficult situations.
Exactly. But why are Labrador and I here? The fact is, our successes in escaping various prisons have become known throughout Roblox. We have become legends, and our adversaries decided to test us in the most extreme conditions. They wanted to ensure that even in this terrifying prison, created with maximum caution and thoughtfulness, we wouldn't be able to find a way out.
Of course, it wasn't easy for us. We understood that here we would face the most challenging trials they could come up with. Every corner, every door, and every corridor was filled with traps and obstacles. They hoped that in such a place, we wouldn't be able to use our skills and would be trapped forever.
But they underestimated our determination and teamwork. Together, we are a force capable of overcoming any barriers. We knew we couldn't let down those who believe in us and follow our adventures. And although this prison was built for girls, it couldn't break our spirit and our will to be free. Subscribe, friends, and we will definitely get out of here. Or will we? Find out at the end of the video.
Our animal city never stopped surprising us. But what happened this time exceeded all our expectations. What started as an ordinary day turned into something completely bizarre. I woke up and discovered that the entire city had changed. And not just changed, every single resident had suddenly turned into a girl. Yes, that's right. Every animal, whether it was a lion, a rabbit, or even a bear suddenly became female.
At first, I thought it was a dream or some cruel prank, but when I stepped outside, I saw that the changes had affected everyone. Not only the animals, but I myself had turned into a woman. We needed to figure out what had happened immediately. Labrador and I started an investigation right away. We first interviewed witnesses and learned that the transformation happened in just a matter of minutes.
Yes, I remember talking to Professor Owl, who said that this could only have happened due to a powerful magical influence or an unknown chemical substance. We went to the professor's lab to investigate possible causes. He was one of the few who remained calm in such a situation.
In the lab, we conducted numerous tests. The professor checked the air, water, and even food for any anomalies, but everything seemed normal. Then, the professor suggested we examine the magical artifacts stored in the city's museum. There were many ancient and powerful items there that could have had such an effect.
When we arrived at the museum, we discovered that one of the artifacts was missing. It was an ancient amulet with the ability to change one's gender. We immediately began searching for signs of theft. On the museum floor, we found a few drops of unknown liquid and paw prints leading into the forest.
We followed the trail, and it led us to an old abandoned house on the edge of the forest. There, we found a group of unknown creatures who, as it turned out, had stolen the amulet. They had used it for their own purposes, but lost control of its power, which caused the mass transformation in the city.
After long negotiations and explanations, we convinced them to return the amulet and help us restore the original order. With their help and the professor's knowledge, we devised a plan to reverse the spell. The amulet had to be activated at a specific time under the light of a full moon.
On the appointed day, we gathered all the city residents in the main square. The professor activated the amulet, and under the light of the full moon, the spell began to work. Gradually, everyone started to return to their original forms. It was an amazing sight.
After everyone had returned to their original forms, we discussed what had happened for a long time. The professor suggested that the amulet be kept in a more secure place to prevent such an incident from happening again. This event taught us a lot and brought the city's residents closer together.
So, dear subscribers, sometimes the most unexpected events can bring us all together and teach us to appreciate what we have. We're grateful to everyone who helped us in this situation, and we hope there won't be any more surprises like this.
Dear subscribers, Dobby and I have an incredible story for you. You know, in our animal city, something unusual always happens. But what happened this time even left Dobby and me stunned. At one point, the boys in our city suddenly started acting strangely. We noticed they became overly mischievous, disobedient, and began causing problems for the entire community. Everyone tried to handle the situation, but nothing seemed to work. In the end, a decision was made. All the boys needed to be gathered and locked up in a specially built prison.
Labrador and I were on duty when we received the order from the city's elders. All the boys had to be sent to prison, and only girls would guard them. The boys had become a real threat. They wouldn't listen to their elders, their parents, and even started small rebellions.
So, Dobby and I were given the task of ensuring the safe transport of all the boys to the prison. At that time, we didn't know exactly how everything would unfold. But, as always, we had to act quickly and efficiently. We knew the girls would handle it. They were smart, strong, and determined.
When we arrived at the prison, the situation there was tense. The boys, as you can imagine, weren't going to surrender without a fight. They were confident they could escape or somehow defeat the girls. But the girls guarding the prison gave them no chance. Labrador and I closely monitored the situation, but trusted the girls in their responsibility.
At first, of course, the boys resisted. They didn't want to follow the rules and even tried to stage small protests. But the girls, as true leaders, showed their willpower and wisdom. They didn't resort to violence, but used their communication skills and patience. Over time, the boys began to realize that in order to get out of prison, they had to change their behavior.
Yes, exactly. At one point, when we were observing their interactions, it became clear that the very fact that the boys were in prison played a big role. Being in such an unusual position, they realized that only by working together could they achieve freedom. The girls taught them the importance of respecting one another and cooperating, as well as understanding how crucial it was to follow the rules for the common good. This was a real turning point in the history of our city. After a few weeks, we saw how the boys began to change. They started listening, helping each other, and acting as a team. Dobby and I often visited the prison to make sure everything was going according to plan. When we finally concluded that the boys had learned their lesson, we made the decision to release them. The girls were proud of their work, and the boys were grateful for the chance to change.
Yes, and with that we wrap up our adventure. If it weren't for your comments and likes, it would have been much harder for us. But it's your words that inspired us to keep going and not give up, no matter what. Thank you for your support.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave likes, and follow our new adventures. We promise that even more exciting and challenging trials await us ahead. So, stay with us.
See you soon, friends. Don't miss our next videos. They'll be even more thrilling. The day started peacefully. Dobie and I were sipping our morning coffee at the station, getting ready for our usual patrol. The streets were quiet. The citizens were going about their daily routines, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But everything changed when the phone rang. On the other end, we heard the trembling voice of a kindergarten teacher from Happy Tales Daycare. She was gasping in terror, almost screaming. The daycare has been taken over. A giant dinosaur broke through the entrance, roaring and not letting the children out. Then, the call was abruptly cut off. Dobie and I exchanged glances. No questions asked. We jumped into our patrol car and sped off toward the daycare at full speed.
On the way there, I tried to make sense of what I had just heard. A dinosaur? Was this some kind of joke? But the fear in the teacher's voice was too real for it to be a prank. When we arrived, all doubt disappeared. The entrance door was smashed, part of the fence was crushed, and scattered toys, torn books, and children's backpacks littered the ground. And most importantly, standing right in front of the building was a massive green dinosaur. Its skin glistened under the sun, and its red eyes gleamed menacingly. It swayed its tail as if listening to the sounds around it. From inside the daycare, we could hear the terrified cries of children. The situation was critical.
The first thing we did was assess the area. Behind the playground slide, a small group of children were huddled together, trembling. They needed to be evacuated immediately. The dinosaur noticed us and let out a deafening roar. The ground trembled beneath our feet. It stepped forward, scraping the ground with its massive claws. I took a step forward, drawing its attention. Meanwhile, Dobie started sneaking around from the other side. Our plan was simple. One distracts, the other gets inside. The dinosaur didn't give me a break. It suddenly lunged at me, but I jumped back just in time. We had to move fast.
While Labrador kept the monster occupied, I sneaked around to the back entrance. The door was locked, but through the window, I saw the teachers and children huddled in a corner. I knocked gently, signaling that I was here to help. One of the teachers opened the door, and I saw the little ones clutching each other, whimpering in fear. They told me that the dinosaur had appeared out of nowhere. It had simply smashed through the fence and started roaring, trapping everyone inside. I gestured for them to stay quiet. We needed to get them out unnoticed.
Meanwhile, I continued dodging the dinosaur's attacks. Then, I noticed something strange. A panel with buttons was glinting on its neck. This dinosaur was mechanical. Someone was controlling it. But who? And why? I didn't have time to think. I had to keep it away from the building while Dobie evacuated the children. I banged loudly on a metal trash can, drawing the dinosaur's attention. It turned its head toward me, growled, and took a step forward.
I led the children out in small groups. We moved quietly to avoid drawing the monster's attention. The teachers helped, keeping the kids calm. Once the last child was outside, we pressed against the wall, watching Labrador. He was skillfully dodging the dinosaur, but he couldn't keep it up forever. Then I noticed a huge water tank on the roof. If we could lure the dinosaur underneath it, we might be able to disable it. I signaled to Labrador. We always understood each other without words.
I immediately understood his idea. We had to lure the dinosaur directly under the tank. I took a few steps back, leading the monster toward me. As expected, it followed, roaring furiously. When it was right under the tank, Dobie gave me the final signal. At the last moment, I leaped out of the way.
I pulled the lever, and a powerful stream of water came crashing down on the dinosaur. It started jerking and sparking. We held our breath. A few seconds later, it froze, then slowly collapsed onto its side. Silence. Everyone stared at the lifeless monster. The children started clapping. The teachers sighed in relief. We did it!
As we stepped closer, I noticed a strange emblem on the dinosaur's body. It was the logo of an old laboratory that had been shut down years ago. So someone was still working on its projects. The real question was, why build a mechanical dinosaur? And why attack a daycare? We had saved the children, but we knew this was just the beginning. A new mystery had just begun, and I knew we would solve it.
This day was full of surprises. We defeated a mechanical dinosaur, saved the children, but there were too many unanswered questions. Who built this monster? Why target a daycare? And would there be another attack? But for now, our job was done. The teachers and children were safe, and Labrador and I knew if our city was ever threatened again, we would be ready.
The day started as usual. Coffee, reports, and post-inspections. Everything was calm in the city of animals. Dobie and I were about to start our morning patrol when a raccoon named Timmy burst into the station. He looked frightened, his eyes darting around, and he was out of breath. He told us that his friend, the fox Rick, had disappeared. The last time anyone saw him, he was playing a new game, Poppy Playtime 4. Timmy swore he had seen Rick literally vanish into the screen. At first, we thought it was a joke or just childish fears, but then Timmy showed us his tablet. The game's loading screen was still glowing, and there, in the reflection of a store window inside the factory, was a silhouette. It looked just like Rick. I exchanged glances with Dobie. This all seemed impossible, but we couldn't ignore it. If the game was somehow pulling players inside, we needed to figure out why. We sat down in front of the screen. The title flickered, and then the words appeared. Welcome to the Playtime Toy Factory. Enter your names to join. I typed in my name. Dobie did the same. The moment we pressed enter, the screen flashed, and darkness swallowed us.
When I opened my eyes, dim lighting surrounded us. We stood in a long corridor. Flickering lamps cast strange shadows on the walls. The air was stale, filled with dust and a strangely sweet scent, like old gummy candy. Labrador looked around. A poster on the wall read, "Welcome to Playtime Factory. Keep smiling." Below it stood a broken toy, a giant plush bear with an eerily wide grin. In the distance, we heard children's laughter. It was quiet, but it sent chills down my spine. We moved forward. The factory looked abandoned. Scattered toy parts lay on the floor, and the silence was only interrupted by the occasional creak of metal. Then we heard whispering.
Someone was there. I raised my paw, signaling Dobie to stay quiet. We carefully peeked around the corner. In the darkness, trembling, was Rick the fox. His fur was ruffled, and his wide eyes darted nervously. He said he didn't know how he got here. One moment he was just playing the game, and the next he was trapped inside. Since then, he had been hiding because they were coming for him. I wanted to ask who they were, but before I could, a loud crash echoed through the hall.
Dust rained from above. We turned sharply. At the end of the corridor, something moved in the shadows. A tall figure with long arms and glowing eyes stood motionless, watching us. It could attack at any moment. I grabbed Rick's paw and pulled him with me. We had to run. We sprinted forward, jumping over debris and broken crates. Heavy footsteps thundered behind us. The creature was chasing us.
We darted into a security room and slammed the door shut behind us. Inside, dozens of monitors displayed different parts of the factory. On one of them, I saw the figure wandering the halls. It tilted its head as if sniffing the air. Rick told us this wasn't the only monster. The factory belonged to a strange entity that played with its visitors like they were toys. The only way out was to reach the main terminal and shut down the system.
We navigated through the toy assembly line where mechanical arms tried to grab our tails. Then we crossed a storage room filled with eerie stuffed animals that seemed to shift positions when we weren't looking. Finally, we reached the terminal, but there was a problem. A keypad locked the system. Rick remembered seeing a code somewhere, but he couldn't recall where. Then the lights began to flicker.
A scraping sound echoed behind us. We turned and saw it. A towering figure resembling a toy clown stepped out of the shadows. Its head tilted from side to side, and a wide, unsettling grin was frozen on its face. I told Dobie to find the code while I stepped forward, trying to distract the monster.
I frantically searched, tossing papers and boxes aside. The monster lunged at Labrador, its long arms reaching out. Then I saw it, Numbers scrawled on the wall. The first 4 digits are 1987. I ran to the terminal.
The creature roared and charged. I barely managed to dodge. Dobie typed the code. First digit, second, third. The monster was almost upon us.
On the way there, I tried to make sense of what I had just heard. A dinosaur? Was this some kind of joke? But the fear in the teacher's voice was too real for it to be a prank. When we arrived,
The day started peacefully. Dobie and I were sipping our morning coffee at the station, getting ready for our usual patrol. The streets were quiet. The citizens were going about their daily routines, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But everything changed when the phone rang. On the other end, we heard the trembling voice of a kindergarten teacher from Happy Tales Daycare. She was gasping in terror, almost screaming. The daycare has been taken over. A giant dinosaur broke through the entrance, roaring and not letting the children out. Then, the call was abruptly cut off. Dobie and I exchanged glances. No questions asked. We jumped into our patrol car and sped off toward the daycare.